Hi everybody, this is SAAD for the SAAD Truth. Earlier today, whilst working on my upcoming University of Nevada, Las Vegas talk, I took a few moments to check what was going on Twitter and saw a retweet from Tariq Fatah, who some of you might remember was a guest on my show. I highly recommend that you go and check out our chat from earlier last year. He had retweeted a clip whereby a uh, Islamic cleric or imam, I'm not exactly sure who he was, apparently in Montreal, and as you know, I live in Montreal. Uh, this gentleman was, delivering a sermon with all the usual, extermination of Jews and so on and so forth. And so I posted on my various portals the tweet in question so that people can see uh, the call for the extermination of Jews, and then I waited to see what kinds of comments I would get, and so I received a message. I won't mention her name, although it's she posted this on my public Facebook page and then later retracted them. Uh, Anyways, if you want to know the person's identity, you can go to my Twitter feed and see the various snapshot photos that I took of her comments. She writes, "I'm a whole lot more worried about the latter, what with actual Nazis showing up in New York." What she's referring to there is, I had facetiously written, uh, should someone be more concerned about this gentleman calling for the extermination of Jews, or be more concerned about Donald Trump asking for a friend? And so she takes me to task and responds. Now, this is a Jewish woman, and I know that she's a Jewish woman because she has a very stereotypically Jewish name. I'm a whole lot more worried about the latter, what with actual Nazis showing up in New York. So apparently this is an American woman. So an American woman has just been presented with evidence that in a North American city there's an Islamic cleric who is calling for the annihilation, the extermination, the end of Jews. And her response is, well, no, I'm a lot more afraid of Donald Trump. And then she goes on to say, hate crimes against Jews have skyrocketed since the election. Dozens, literally, of bomb threats have called into Jewish community centers, she writes JCC as an acronym, and shuls, synagogues, swastikas all over the place, actual, period, fucking, period, Nazis, period, beating people up in the streets. And so I responded to her and I said, it's simply astonishing that this is the position that she would take. And then she doubled down and said, meanwhile, Muslims are being persecuted by the current administration in ways that make George W. look like a paragon of tolerance and diversity. So this woman who is seeing her people being denigrated in a way whereby a person is calling for the annihilation of these people. And specifically, I live in Montreal, the city where this gentleman is calling for, invoking God for the extermination of the Jews. That didn't move her. What moved her is that, yeah, of course, Donald Trump is more scary when it comes to, Jewish threats. I mean, threats to Jews. And then, of course, she adds that he's, of course, a threat to Muslims. So the Islamic cleric who's calling for the annihilation of Jews didn't upset her. Rather, Donald Trump is really the threat on the guy who is calling for the annihilation of the Jews. Of course, once I weighed in, she does what every cowardly, morally confused person with complete moral degeneracy does, and that is she deleted her messages, which you think, why would she delete her comments? I mean, if she stands by her positions, if she genuinely thinks that Donald Trump is worse than somebody in North America who is calling for the annihilation of the people. I mean, imagine if a Christian Republican stood up, or a Christian preacher stood up and said, let's kill all blacks, let's kill all gays. What do you think would be the response? But, it's okay. These are just brown folks who are exotic, so we don't have to take them seriously. In any case, then what ended up happening is that the gentleman who had started the thread in question, if for those of you that don't know, what happens on Facebook is if somebody starts a thread, then a bunch of people weigh in, and then if that person who started the thread decides to delete his original post, then all of the embedded contributions are lost. Because that gentleman, by the way, I had taken him to task as well because he was sort of equivocating, well, you know, we should be worried about both. To which I had responded, well, when your hair is on fire, you tend to that reality first before worrying about your weight gain. And then he ended up deleting the whole thread, which then deleted all of my responses to the woman in question. So even though her comments she had deleted herself, there was still value in all of the people, in seeing all of the material that people had weighed in with. And so I wrote back to the guy, the suicidal Jewish woman's comments were a very important teachable moment. They demonstrated how an intensely delusional and self-hating person could take up positions that are immoral and grotesque. Luckily, I took snapshots of her comments, but the full thread, which you started, would have been beneficial for people to see. Hence, in the spirit of open debate and the free exchange of ideas, you engaged in an execrable action. You deleted an important exchange, and in doing so deleted the contributions of all those who took the time and effort to participate, including myself. This is shameful. I hate to say this, but you are not welcomed here. Cowards who decide what can or cannot be seen should find another forum to exhibit their moral turpitude. So there you have it, folks. Another day in the life of God. It frankly is quite exhausting because you know, once you open yourself up to the endless ugliness out there, then it's almost impossible to extricate yourself from such ugliness. But again, I think that the uh, the costs of not getting engaged are too great, especially when you see, in this case, a Jewish woman. Let me repeat: a Jewish woman who has just been witness to somebody in Montreal calling for the extermination of Jews, felt more compelled to double down on the fact that he's not really a threat to her and me, who shares the same city as that gentleman, but rather the real threat is Donald Trump, both to Jews and to the imam or cleric who was calling for the annihilation of Jews. So when you've reached that level of a parasitized brain, when your mind is so diseased, then my OPS diagnosis is truly apropos. Some idiots will say, well, you know, why do you come up with all these terms? Are you trying to just spread memes for fun? Of course, that's not why I'm doing it, right? Words have meaning. Viral words, words that capture a reality well, have the capacity to spread, and therefore communication strategy 101, you coin these compelling terms precisely because they are able to capture a reality so accurately, and in doing so hopefully spread. So there you have it, folks. OPS will spell the demise of the West if we don't wake up. Talk to you soon. Have a great week. Cheers.